Well, it seems like we've been gone for at least a week. Well, we have been. Hey, I hope all of you had a great Thanksgiving holiday. Obviously, we weren't here last Thursday. It was Turkey Day, Thanksgiving Day. And now we're back, right? It's Tuesday. We're in a whole new month, and it happens to be the last month of 2025. Where did it go? What will be the biggest stories of 2025? I can only wait in anticipation as they start rolling out here over the next couple of weeks. Um, as you can see, we always appreciate you guys being with us here on the DPB show. Like, subscribe, go out, share our content. You can do that at Rumble, YouTube, X, and Facebook. Always appreciate you guys joining in on the comment section. It's part of what helps us roll through the hour as quick as we can. We are live Tuesdays, Thursdays, 4 to 5, and it's going to be a good show. A story, not the story. Now, you're probably wondering, what does that mean? Well, my good friend, see how I did that? I took ownership of Dan Bongino.
Yeah.
Dan Bongino used to say a story, not the story. And it's interesting because that was something that he really led with often on his show. And that's kind of where we're at, right? There's so much confusion. Just take just one story that's out there right now. What is the liability? What are the legal ramifications of the behavior of Senator Mark Kelly and the Mary group of Congress people? What are the true consequences? What is the true story versus a story? What can you really do in that position? And if you go out and you try to get the answers, you're just as confused as you were before you ever started letting your fingers do the walking through the different search engines. It gets even more perplexing. It gets more confusing, and you sure can't depend upon the media to bring that home. And that's going to roll out for, I don't know how much longer. I think it's actually stayed in the limelight longer than I ever thought it was going to. In fact, I think that what keeps it there is that they're definitely going to bring charges against Senator Mark Kelly based on the uniform code of the military. And Mark Kelly is going to have to defend himself and defend his actions. There just is so much like that right now. I mean, you probably have come off of your Thanksgiving holiday going, okay, where are we? Where are we going? We're coming to the end of 2025. Are we truly realizing the boost, the benefit of a Trump presidency? Well, we're going to cover that today. We're going to hit upon a lot of those points. President Trump has taken to his Truth Social page and has put out some really nice graphical charts that show the benefits of his presidency to date. Now, granted, he's not even been in office a full year yet. So you've got to take that with you have to take his accomplishments and really kind of try to extrapolate that data over the next 3 years, because if indeed everything that he is putting out is true, then it bodes well for all of us here in the United States of America. Even the people who don't agree with him, the people who are still adamantly opposed to him, that are neurotically opposed to him in some instances. And I mean, that's just, once again, getting to the bottom of a story versus the story. You know, Mrs. Producer challenged me to do something, and I'm going to challenge you to do this. I think I can say this on the DPB show, but go out to your search engine, a Google search, and Google the 3 words. Google CDC, I almost forgot the first one. CDC, autism, and vaccines. And tell me what you get. It's pretty fascinating that here you can just put in basic words that seem to be monopolizing the airways and the media, and put in those three words, and you're going to get obviously a search back, which gives you information. And it's fascinating. Let's do an internet search. There he is, right there, CDC, vaccine, and autism. And it's fascinating what you're going to find. You're going to find that a lot of what they've been telling you, a story, not the story, has been reversed in the course of just 1 year after the presidency of Joseph R. Biden. I'll wait to see what you guys' opinions are. That it's fascinating. I'm not going to give you the answer because who knows? That's the other thing that we're going to discuss a little bit today. What you put in on your laptop or your handheld device or your computer might be a different result than it's not might be. It's probably going to be a little different in most cases. And it has a lot to do with how things roll out. Hey, Carolyn, it's good to see you here. Good to see you, Berwin Bob. Always good to have you in studio, or on the show, I should say. You're not in studio, but that's a good segue. Okay, I'm gonna have to grab it up there. Oh, do you have it up on Mrs. Producer? I can read it. I can pull it up. I'm going to pull it up real quick, Mrs. Producer. I thought you could put it up for me and I could read it. But I will. I'll read a little bit about what it says on my search. Your search might be different. It might not match up totally, but let me just get into a little search engine, search the web. CDC, autism, if I can spell it right. And what was the last one? Vaccine. Yes. Excuse me. Didn't get to the cough button. Let's hit a search. I'm going through MSN, Bing. This is right from the CDC site. Let's pull it up here. Okay. Let me share this real quick with you. Oh, Mrs. Producer, you were already. I'm sitting there hunting and pecking, and Mrs. Producer pulls it up right there. And oh, by the way, just in case you didn't know, Chris is back with us after a week's vacation. Chris, good to see you. Let me read it. I can read it. I guess I'm going to read it from my page. So the key points, key takeaways, autism vaccines for everyone. November 19, 2025. The claim vaccines do not cause autism is not an evidence-based claim because studies have not ruled out the possibility that infant vaccines cause autism. Studies supporting a link have been ignored by health authorities. HHS has launched a comprehensive assessment of causes of autism, including investigations on plausible biologic mechanisms and potential causal links. Right there in black and white for everyone to see. And once again, that's on the CDC's page. That is the story of the CDC. It's not what we've been told. It's not what people are saying. That is very clear that there it is in black and white. And that is a great example to where we're at right now in our country culturally.
Oh, what's funny, David, is when I did the search, that CDC article was on the top of the list, but number 2 was NPR, also sponsored by the U.S. government, debunking that same story.
Debunking the CDC.
Right, exactly. And we're supposed to believe NPR over the scientists. I thought we were supposed to believe scientists, right? But guess not at NPR.
It's their go-to organization, the CDC, the Center of Disease Control. I I think that's just one example, Chris, and these are going to continue to build upon themselves, especially when it comes to election integrity, what has been found out, what people are obviously still struggling with. A big part of what we're seeing in Venezuela has a lot to do with the 2020 election, and that is a big part of the movements, the military movements down in and around the Caribbean Sea. And you don't know what to believe. Mrs. Producer and I were also having a conversation about the content that each one of us will be able to view on social media, whether it be Facebook or X or Instagram. And it's fascinating how good they have gotten at creating some of these stories and these deep fakes, right? To make you believe something that you believe, well, it's wholesome, it's good, but all the while it's not even true. But they get people bought into these stories and into this world. I call it the world of make believe, right? The land of make believe, similar to where the governor of Illinois truly resides and is the king over the land of make believe. They make you think that, I mean, just common stories like Mrs. Producer was sharing right here. She's got it pulled up. Here's one. Thank you, Mrs. Producer. Well, look at this, Chris. You're going to enjoy this.
Hmm.
You want me to put it on the stage? I think she's got it there. Yep. Oh, I got to share it. There we go. Oh, add to stage. Oh, it's not doing it. There you go. Thank you, Mrs. Producer. So here's a perfect example of that. This is being shared all over the internet. This is a gentleman who, according to the story, adopted all these children as a single dad. And then here are all the ladies grown up. And, I can't see the type real quick, but yeah, this is a story that why? What is the benefit of putting forth a story that's not even true? Do you have any idea why that is, Chris?
Well, some people just want to get as many clicks as possible. So, you get paid for your clicks. So create some content that strikes people's fancy, get it to go viral.
Share.
Clicks. Yeah. That's, probably the simplest answer to it. Then sometimes you have people behind the scenes, not necessarily this story. I didn't get a chance to read through it enough to see what kind of political slant there was behind it. But, people come up with these kind of fake stories to influence your thinking, change the way that you view the world, and kind of hopefully agree with whatever it is they're selling.
Well, here's a feel-good story that Trump put out here just about a few hours ago. And I'm going to add that to the stage real quick. Did you see this one, Chris?
Michael Dell? That was big news today on the financial channels as well.
Yeah, I'm assuming, fascinating. Obviously, put a lot of parameters on it as far as where the monies will go and who will receive the money. But 25 million people, $250, and they have to be in the demographic, right? It's younger people, right? It's children that will receive this, and they will be able to start their own wealth building, right? It says Dell Technologies founder Michael Dell on Tuesday announced a $6.25 billion commitment to help millions of American children build long-term wealth through newly created tax-advantaged investment accounts. I was reading somewhere, and I think it was on another page, that basically it was in communities where the mean income was below 150,000, and so they had it pretty much quadrant off which is going to be cool, right? Because it'll be interesting to see how this experiment goes, an experiment in wealth building.
Right. And it was, that's part of the big, beautiful bill was what opened these accounts to be available to these kids. And it's a really important thing because when you look at the young people in this country, the Gen Zers and whatnot, they're, 51% of them are in favor of socialism. So we need to teach children how capitalism works for them and why it's a better system. And what better way than to have them have an account with money and be able to see it go up, team it up with some education in the classroom where the kids look at their accounts online and see the real benefits of owning a Microsoft or, one of the other NVIDIA or a company like that, and Disney, whatever it is that, they're interested in, and see how, wealth building actually happens as opposed to, hearing from politicians about how billionaires are evil. Here's a guy giving away $6.25
billion.
Yeah. So
and to be associated with the guy. Yeah. Be associated with a guy like Michael Dell, right? You get the opportunity to take one of the premier businessmen in the world who's willing to give, some seed money to young people with these newly formed accounts that are out there that allow wealth building, these tax advantage investment accounts, and truly to see where the rubber meets the road. Will this work out? I mean, when you talk about the story versus a story, it's easy to spin a story. It's another thing to tell the story. And this is the story. Michael Dell's, this is being covered, like you said, Chris, on all the different financial channels. And this is going to happen, which is a great way to end 2025. Let's go big. The big, beautiful bill is creating wealth, which is, I think, one of our next stories, and I want to get to it. And I'm just going to scroll up here because why not? Because I can. But Trump put out a series of different. This is it right here. I think this one before is a little more fascinating. Consumer spending is outpacing inflation, Chris. This is one of the stories that's out there. And I want to get your feedback on it to see if indeed this is real or is this Memorex. I don't know if you can see that on your page. The consumer spending is outpacing inflation. And I'm sure you probably have heard this.
I would say I'm going to give this a true, and I would say that it's, I have that line that I like to use. There's lies, damn lies, and statistics. And so when you look at charts, you have to be extremely careful about how you look at them, what the time periods are, what the scales are, and what they're trying to tell you. But in this case, what I believe this is telling us is that we have a bifurcated economy right now where the top third of the income earners are doing much better than the bottom part. And that's how consumer spending is outpacing inflation. On top of that, over the last, pretty much since Trump's been in office, we've started to see where job raises are outpacing inflation as well. So that would allow you to spend more than you did before because your paycheck's going up faster than inflation, so you can spend faster than inflation. So there's a couple of points that make me believe that this is fairly accurate information.
And while Chris was on vacation, he was taking advantage of being in the upper echelon of the third of the wealthiest people out there, and he bought himself a new fancy sweatshirt. Go ahead.
Yeah. See?
Show the audience there.
Gulf of America.
Yeah, because Chris was actually spending time in the Gulf of America.
And my buddy here is about to get gifted the same shirt.
I love it.
I thought that would be a good one. But yeah, when we drive up and down that road in front of the beach, see a lot of signs, for sale signs by Christie's, which, is one of the premier,
real estate
organizations in the world
Yeah.
for rich people. Some of those homes, when we looked them up online, were $20 million.
Yeah.
Now that they've had a few hurricanes down there, they build those things like, bunkers, and they're huge. And then they fancy them up on the outside with all kinds of nice amenities and things like that. So it's really, you really, and then what's
so you and Sue didn't put an offer in on a
no, not that one. No. What's interesting is there's still some of the old school ones, the ones that are, wood frame structures on piers and stuff that somehow managed to survive. So there's some of the old, 50s style ones that you kind of think of, as old school that are still around there. And, rich people buy those, tear them down, and then put up the $40 million, $20 million ones. But
yeah, and it is perplexing how something that's been around for 40, 50, 60 years, it was able to withstand the force of a hurricane force winds and still stood, and other buildings that were much newer weren't able to weather it. All right, here's another one, Chris. I think let's see if I can get it up there. Oh, add to stage, and there it is. This is a manufacturing renaissance is underway, and we're seeing this time a bar chart that's giving us an indication that, as you can see, that they take it from quarter one in 2023, where it was just over 0.5% in growth, and now fast forwarding to quarters one and quarters two of 2025, and you see 3.5% and 2.4%, where up until that point everything else was at the best it had achieved was 1.4% in quarter two of 2024. Imagine that during election year. What's your thoughts, Chris? What do you think?
That's one of the themes that a lot of the street economists are talking about, is the manufacturing renaissance. And a lot of that stems from way back during COVID, when people realized how vulnerable their supply chains were, and they didn't want to put themselves in that position again. The other part of that is tax policy, the ability to write off the expense of the whole factory in 1 year, which is part of that Trump plan. So that's had an impact. Tariffs have had an impact to move production back. And then, Trump has been going around the world selling the United States as a place to put your manufacturing, and he's had a lot of pledges to build a lot of factories here. So there's a lot of things that go into that. Some of the reduced regulation during the Trump administration. So, that's certainly a sign that his policies are starting to work.
Well, and you brought up the tariffs, and I think I had a graph that I wanted to share with you, but like I said, this is all being shared by today in the past 4 hours by the President of the United States, or at least his team that posts these things to Truth Social, which I know that he has a hand in. But this one I find interesting too, Chris. I don't know if you can read that or not. I'll read it for you.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, real wages are recovering after a massive hit from Biden's inflation.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too, is that while you've seen, during the Trump term, we've made some of it back, but part of this whole affordability issue is that, as you can see from the chart, we haven't made it all back yet. And so people are still suffering because, I can't I really have to squint to look at those numbers, but it looks
Well,
like
I'll give it to you.
about half
So,
of them still. Well, the chart over there shows you about
yeah,
60%
yep,
still to go. That's why people talk about the affordability issue. That's why Democrats are jumping on it. It's their fault that this happened. This is all the Biden inflation, that when we were at 9% as opposed to 2 or 3%, that, people couldn't keep up and they fell so far behind. But inflation is cumulative. While economists look at it quarter by quarter to see what how it's doing right now, as a consumer, it's cumulative, because you haven't had a deflationary period where when you go to the store, it hasn't come back down. Your wages are catching up to the price, as opposed to the price is coming down to meet your income level. So that's why people are suffering at this point. And, of course, the media and the Democrats are going to blame Trump for it. The other point is that you mentioned in the previous graph, manufacturing is doing quite well. Well, when you look at what the expectations are for the third quarter growth, we're in pretty close to 4% potential. So that's back-to-back really good quarters of GDP growth. So despite all this doom and gloom talk, the economy is doing pretty well, and it's reflected in the stock market.
yeah. I had a couple more screenshots, or I should say the page up, but I just X'd it out. So, that happens. When I got so busy trying to pull up, I had one last one. And really the theme, though, I guess, with a story versus the story, you can document what is truly happening. Chris, this as someone who came out of the financial world. This isn't, you can't pretend. I mean, as you said, there's liars, damn liars, and statistics. There's only so far you can go with trying to pull the proverbial wool over someone's eyes, that you're trying to spin things to make it appear that something isn't real. The fact that you have the minority speaker of the House of Representatives, Hakeem Jeffries, basically stating that the things have never been worse, that the economy's never been worse. And this is real, obviously you got to love it coming from Hakeem, because who created the debacle that Trump inherited at the beginning of this year? We're not talking that Trump's been in office. They believe that he's been in office for more than a whole term, that this is the end of his term, right? They've made this the end of his term, not the beginning of his term. But the statistics can be fudged, but really what we're seeing in the economy, and granted, there's still some buffeting going on. People are struggling. I mean, that is the bottom line. People are still having a tough time pulling themselves out. The wealthy people, no problem. I mean, most of their wealth was attached to the markets themselves. As my good friend told me the other day, he goes, "There's no question about it. The rich people are getting richer." And
I'd like to comment on that just a second. The rich getting richer is a mathematical totality. It has to happen. Zero grows.
I hope so.
Zero grows at zero. You can't. If you have zero, doesn't matter how good the market is, you're still going to end up the quarter at zero. And so that's why it has to work that way. And the rich always have to get richer, because
they do.
It's mathematics. It's not.
But how does it pull?
Scamming you or anything or something nefarious? And the other thing about those statistics is that it's different people all the time.
Yeah.
So the people die, or sometimes they make a bad investment decision. You hear about all these athletes who are, rich beyond their wildest dreams, like the Fridge. Now he's working construction because he blew all that. So at one point he was in the top 1%. Now he's not. So it's not always the same people all the way along either. So it's what socialists use to argue that capitalism only helps certain people.
But that's the point. The bottom part of the economy, the struggling part, they can't improve their conditions unless the people above them get wealthier. Because if the people above them didn't get wealthier, then how would there be growth? Growth doesn't exist in a vacuum, does it?
Right. Well, I always look at it this way. I mean, do you want Hakeem Jeffries investing your money, or do you want Elon Musk investing your money? Take your choice. You'll find out who's the investor here.
Your friend's calling you that wants a sweatshirt.
I know. It's crazy.
Like, hey, you're advertising the sweatshirt on the DPB show. I'm coming over to get it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I'm pulling the Trump. Okay, this was the graph that I was trying to get to. Let's see if I can add it back in here real quick. I'm working the buttons as quick as I can go. There we go. All right. Let's see. Did I get it? Hey,
we'll call this segment Chris reviews graphs on the fly.
Well, I don't like to give you a lot of lead time because then you're spending up too much time rehearsing.
Yeah.
But here it is, right here. This graph. Let me see if I can blow it up a little bit more, and then I can read it. And you can go out to Trump's Truth Social page and see it for yourself if you'd like. This is Trump's policies have sharply reduced the deficit.
Oh,
how about this? Every month, February through September, they're showing that the savings versus Biden, obviously in February, there wasn't indication of that. Monthly data is the sum of February of that year to the month indicated, which is the September, which the source is the United States Treasury. CA calculations. And so Trump policies have sharply reduced the deficit. Is that part of the new growth, the golden age? The best is yet to come, Chris. How does this impact people's lives?
Well, I mean, the big thing is that we need to be careful about how much of a deficit we take on, because at some point investors might exit our market. We fund a lot of debt with international investors, and if they feel like that either the dollar will weaken precipitously or that interest rates will rise significantly, they're going to quit investing in our U.S. treasuries. So far, that hasn't been the case. When you look at the interest rates over the last year or so, they've been relatively stable, between 4.5% and 4% on a 10-year treasury. So, you really don't, I've seen a lot of people talk about it, but it hasn't materialized in any way that I can see in the marketplace that people have less confidence in the United States or its ability to repay its debt. But if once that happens, then you're in deep trouble, and even as it is, the amount of interest we're paying is more than what we pay on defense. So it's still a significant portion, but there are countries that are in a lot worse shape than the United States.
And that's the story versus a story. As Hakeem would like you to believe, the United States of America is in such terrible condition, right? In fact, the saviors of the United States are the Democrat Party. He even came out and said that. I think it was today or it was yesterday. And he's been saying it, obviously, for the past 10 months, right? Chris, how do the common folks like you and me and those who are truly looking at the world right now, how do we start having hope in this whole economic juggernaut that has to be righted and turned back for 2026? Because that's the outlook, right? How do things look for, whether it's utility bills, whether it's the consumer products that we consume every day? How do you see next year kind of does it come in like a lion or come in like a lamb?
I think we're going to see a pretty good boost in the first half of the year, because with and this is going to impact the working class a lot and middle class a lot, because the no tax on tips and the no tax on overtime,
Social Security,
well, and Social Security too, but those two definitely impact the working people of this country, and they're going to suddenly get a nice big tax refund when they do their taxes this spring. So you probably start to see it in March and April. Consumer spending, you'll probably see it uptick because people will have more money in their pocket because they'll be getting these refunds. So I think that's going to drive the economy. I think people who pretend that the U.S. economy is doing poorly haven't looked to see, what the commitment from all these various sophisticated international investors are doing in terms of investing here in the United States. You look at the various, hedge funds and private equity people around the world and what they're putting, where they're putting their money in the United States. I think that says a lot. Anybody can say whatever they want, but when they put their own money at risk, that's a different story.
Chris, you weren't with me last week, and we did cover it because obviously they've come out and have proposed a health care solution, and they're going to call it the More Affordable Care Act. Have you had an opportunity to look at it?
No, I haven't seen that impact yet.
Well, I mean, it just came out. It has to go through, the powers to be. It has to be voted on. But this is a Republican. The whole knock on Republicans are, and I know that you were even challenging our party and the conservative movement to say, hey, listen, going into the midterms, we better come up with something other than platitudes. We need a solution. And now one has been brought forward, and it's pretty impressive. It deals with people retaining their money through health savings accounts, but not health savings accounts as they were in days gone by. The control of the health savings account is the individual rather than the insurance companies.
Yeah, I mean, the issue that I always have with those kind of solutions is that works good throughout a whole life cycle. So when you're young and you're healthy, you're just making bank. You're putting money away in that account. You're in great shape, and then that gives you the cushion that when you get into your older stages and you start to need those kinds of services, you have the money for it. That's always been in my mind. How do you jump into that in the middle with people of our age? We're spending money on it. There's no way, even if we get 10 grand a year, probably pretty close to spend all that. So there's no cushion for the next year if something really significant happens. So that's the point of that's where insurance works is it's a group risk, and you spread the risk over the group as opposed to the individual.
But I think the cool thing about it is we have to change the mindset of people, and I get it. That's hard to do when you're struggling, when you're trying to make ends meet, when you're watching every penny that you're spending, that it's hard, especially in a a total different demographic with the younger people, especially in light of what Michael Dell is doing. But getting people to start, young people to start realizing that the economy of the future, which I'm not any type of soothsayer, I don't know what the future holds. Um, but I know one thing, what's going to hit us all and impact those generations below Chris and I is this deficit. And to some degree, because we just put up a bunch of graphs, Chris, that show that yes, you can have an amount of debt, but you can have an amount of growth. And what you start instilling within younger people is you need to be a part of the growth. You need to get on the train because we all say it. I mean, all of us would like to have a little more money right now invested. I'm hopeful that all of us would like to have more money invested. And some people, they can't even, put a few bucks like Michael Dell's doing for these young people, $250.
Well, I mean, when you start to look at some of the statistics, they're a little bit grim in terms of, what percentage of the population couldn't pay for a $500 unexpected expense, or, what the average balance is on somebody's credit card, or all those kinds of issues. And, it's a matter of priority of what we teach in schools, that we're not teaching that properly to our children. I mean, yes, parents should take some responsibility for that, but it also is something that should be reinforced by the schools. We have time to teach some of these other topics that maybe aren't helping the majority of children. We certainly can spend the time to teach some basic finance. The whole idea of, with these accounts, the power of compounding is amazing. And what it really shows too is what some of these kids may find out over time is that having their money taken and put in Social Security, and the rate of return that you get on Social Security pales in comparison to what they're getting in their little accounts. And they may wonder, well, why can't I have all my money in that? Which is something the Republicans tried to do, back in the Bush era, but really got down, because people don't really understand what's going on there.
Well, I think there's a lot in store for us in 2026. And I think that we need to be vigilant about making sure that we are looking for the information, the data, the truth. And nobody has obviously, as a person of faith, I believe there is a truth, and it is the absolute truth, and it's never going to change, no matter what happens with Michael Dell or the stock market or the national debt or in Venezuela or at the southern border or within our educational system. We are going to get closer to the truth, I do believe, as we make some conscious decisions to grow out of the state of being that we have, for whatever reason. Like I said, all of us can. It's not that long ago, right? We go back to the COVID era and we start thinking back what took place when Joe Biden took the helm of the presidency here in the United States of America, and how that quickly just manifested itself. I love telling the story about my my mom during the COVID crazy, where what was the program that Biden came up with that he was going to give everybody money? It was worse than Oprah Winfrey on you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. But my mom was making, $99 a week at Kohl's. That was her part-time job. And she decided they didn't want anybody over the age of, my mom to be
Mhm.
working on the sales floor during COVID because, of course, it was going to kill everyone. And so my mom decided to take advantage of the program that they put forth, and she called in and she said she was so excited that she was going to get um, her $99 a week, and she was going to be able to stay at home uh, and avoid obviously potentially contracting something that would make her sick. And of course, at this time, my mom's already saying, I don't think it's is what it is. And she was right, because that was a story, not the story. But the lady on the other end of the line actually shared something with my mom, which she found fascinating. She said, Sally, that's my mom's name. The good news is you're going to get your $99, but you're also going to get an additional $600 a week. My mom's like, wait a minute, how does this work? I'm going to get an extra $2,000 and I just have to stay home. That's where we were at. It wasn't just my dear mother collecting a benefit from the Department of uh, Employment Services here in the state of Illinois, but it was hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people goosing the system. Where did that money come from? And now you know the rest of the story. That's just part of it. That's not all of it. That's not how it all happened. I mean, it was just so many little micro, I'm going to use their term, micro abrasions. It was the cutting of 1,000 cuts, right? That's how we got to where we are. So knowing where we're at going into 2026, I don't know, Chris, are you confident about the future?
I think there's going to be some curveballs as always. You talked about inflation. I'm not too optimistic about um, our electric bills going down in any manner in the state, because the state has decided that they want to enforce battery power, and they're forcing everybody to buy, the utilities to buy a bunch of battery power because they don't want to. The problem is they got all this intermittent power, and there are time periods where the wind is blowing, the sun is shining, and the system has too much power in it. And so you get to a point where you have negative uh, cost on power. So you have to pay somebody to take the power away so you don't blow up your system. And so what they've decided to do is throw a bunch of batteries at it and stick a bunch of batteries on it. Well, the batteries cost money, and the consumer is all going to pay for those. They're claiming that how this is going to work and how it's going to save us money in the long run is that there will be a time period where we're desperate for energy. And so instead of going out and buying energy when it's really expensive, we're going to just use our batteries. And that's going to offset the cost of the batteries to the consumer. And so overall, we're going to save money. But, that may or may not work. The other issue that I see is that because, when you look at the energy density of these green energy plans, you see how big, when you drive up 55 and you see those solar fields, you see how much land that takes up. And when you compare that to a gas plant or a, nuclear plant or something like that, it's significantly more, to cover the same amount of energy. Well, the problem is we're adding these huge data centers here. I saw an article where it's going to be somewhere about, they're going to need by 2030, they're going to need 30 gigawatts of power for these new things. So to give you some idea, that's enough to power 22 million homes.
Oh,
And that's just going to have to show up somewhere in this grid. And when you look at how they made some progress in saying, well, maybe we'll consider nuclear. But when you look at how long it takes to put in a nuclear plant, there's no way a nuclear plant's going to be ready by 2030, even if you started it today, which no one started it. So there's going to be continued issues. And then there's also
and you're saying specifically, Illinois obviously is at a disadvantage, even though Illinois is one of the leaders when it comes to nuclear power plants.
right.
And that just is mind-boggling. But obviously, JB's not going to jump on board with drill, baby, drill. JB's got a whole different.
You got to remember too is, I mean, look at all these towns in Southern Illinois that are ghost towns because they were coal mining towns.
Yeah.
So I mean, not to say that we should go to coal, but natural gas is plentiful in this country and is fairly, non-pollutant compared to.
I like natural gas. I'm a big proponent of natural gas. I think
and those factories go up fast. I mean, and you're talking about the United, the breadbasket of the United States, and instead of growing corn, we're going to be growing windmills and solar farms. So, you have to choose what you're going to do with your land. And it's not always, the right thing to do is do that. So it's and then they threw in, this is all part of this bill that passed a few months ago in Illinois. And, then they also passed laws to make sure that unions were in charge of running the solar fields. So, there's a lot that went on in that bill. None of it really is going to solve the problem of high electric prices or even reliability. I mean, once you get to this point, you get a hot summer and pretty soon, you don't have enough power and you're sitting sweating in your house.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I think 2026 is going to have its challenges. And I don't believe that all of us are going to be walking on sunshine. And I do believe that we're going to have to show what we're made of here in this country. I think we're a lot further ahead than most countries. And I think we have a great opportunity. And the best part of it, Chris, at the end of the day, is going into 2026. Donald J. Trump will still be the president of the United States of America.
I mean, I'm very optimistic. There are some specific areas where we're going to have issues, but overall, I'm very optimistic on the economy growing well in the next year. Oh, maybe I should give my disclaimer. Anything I say should not be considered investment advice. But I'm pretty confident that next year is going to be a pretty decent year, because you have the stimulus from, the big, beautiful bill, and you've got, the investment in the country as we've seen, and all those things are net positives. We're still going to have problems with electricity, and it's really going to be the states that tried to implement as much green energy as possible are the ones that are having the problems. It's California, Illinois, New York. Those are going to be high electric utility states. Other states have done a better job. The good news is we get to see what happened in Europe with their implementation of green energy and how it's been a complete failure and
imploded
in
their
the just course.
Yeah.
That's where we're getting some of that. That's why we're getting some of that manufacturing.
Well, and the beautiful thing about being the United States of America is you can always vacate the state you're in to move to a different state, which obviously is the grass always greener. I love Illinois. I'm an Illinois kid. I'm going to be in Illinois for a very long time. I'm not, as my friend Darren Bailey said, I believe there's an opportunity to change this. I do believe that Illinois is going to take advantage in the next few years of the Trump presidency, and we are going to make a great comeback. We have a lot of ground to cover, I mean, if you think the country was in a bad way, Illinois, states like Illinois, California, New York, equally, they're scrambling, trying to figure out what they're going to do. Chris, I know that we didn't get to everything that I wanted to cover today, but I appreciate you being back. Obviously, I look forward to Thursday now, just like that. It'll happen before we know it. But the key is going into the rest of this month, in light of the season of light. I don't want to take that away from why we celebrate the Christmas holiday season, is the season of light. There is much to be hopeful for as we wrap up the year. We're going to do our best here at the DPB show to wrap up things, to bring some common sense to the craziness that's out there, because there is so much. I know Chris is just aching or biting at the bit to talk about artificial intelligence and everything that we are seeing coming out of artificial intelligence and the manifestation of what it could be going into 2026 and beyond. And we're going to hit upon a lot of that here before the end of the year. But we do appreciate you guys joining us here, whether that be Facebook, whether that would be Rumble, X, or YouTube. Go out, like, subscribe, continue to join us, continue to be in the comments section. Continue to let us know what you're thinking, because obviously I anymore, I don't know. It's hard. You talk about really mining for good data, mining for good information, finding good sources that are not just trying to spin or get clicks, like Mrs. Producer's story that she shared with the gentleman who adopted all these children, as a single dad, and then another shot. And, once again, because somebody was benefiting based on the amount of volume that they were getting in clicks and advertising and whatever on the internet. So, all right, Chris, any closing thoughts for today's show?
I just think I'm looking forward to next year. I think we'll have a good year. I think things will move along. It'll be interesting to watch how the midterm elections start to shape up.
Well, especially knowing that we have to face a primary in a lot of the states, Illinois being one of them, that there's a primary coming up in March of 2026. So before you know it, you're going to start seeing and hearing and trying to make sense of what it is. Well, you have to make sense. You can't make sense of what the Democrat Party has put forth. So don't try, but to make sense of where things are going to go, where they're going to end up, even though we battle a lot of the things. I know that commenter Mark, my brother, said the only way. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me check my watch. Oh, 2 days. Mark's birthday's in 2 days. I was thinking he was on the show today and I had missed his birthday. So so don't worry, Mark. That's Thursday's show. You come back on Thursday's show. We'll give you a special we'll sing happy birthday to you. But yeah, no, I do believe that there's a lot out there that we need to walk through and we need to pick apart. And we're going to continue to do that here on the DPB show. With that said, I'm going to end us in prayer, as we like to do here. Dear eternal gracious Father, we came through the season of Thanksgiving. We have so much to be grateful for. So much. There is life, and it is beyond abundant here in this world. Lord, continue to guide us and lead us. Continue to give us the wisdom and knowledge to overcome the deceit that's out there. A story. We want the story. We thank you for this time of the year where we get to enjoy family and friends and each other. Let us be mindful that there's nothing more important than not only your son, Jesus Christ, and his birth and his second coming, but there's nothing more important than family and friends. Politics, all of that should never overshadow our human connection with one another. It's easy to eat a little crow, even if we're, dropping feathers behind us. Let's just continue to enjoy this season. We thank you, Lord, for every day, and including today. Amen.
Amen.
All right, Chris.
All right.
We will see you here in a second at the Afterglow. I love you. Chris loves you. And Jesus loves you more. We bid you farewell till Thursday.